The air inside Station Krell smelled like rust and fear. Hyun walked through the crowded market with his hand near his weapon. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Around him, aliens of every kind pushed and shoved to see the goods for sale. But these were not normal goods. These were people. Hyun had seen many terrible things in his life. He had fought in wars across 3 star systems. He had killed more beings than he could count. His face carried scars from battles he tried to forget, but nothing made his stomach turn like this place. Station Krell was where the galaxy's worst people came to buy and sell living creatures like they were furniture. He was not here to buy. Hyun was hunting a man who had committed crimes during the last war. A man who had ordered the deaths of thousands. The trail had led him to this disgusting station in the empty parts of space where laws did not reach. He moved through the crowd searching for his target. Then he saw them. On a raised platform in the center of the market stood 2 figures that made Hyun stop walking. A woman and a small child, both chained at the wrists and ankles. Their skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly in the dim light. The woman held the child close to her body, trying to shield her from the crowd of buyers below. Hyun knew what they were immediately. Valari. He had not seen one in years. Most people thought they were all dead. The Valari had been a peaceful species. They could speak mind to mind, and their skin changed colors with their feelings. 20 years ago, during the wars, someone had decided the Valari were dangerous because of their mental powers. An entire fleet had been sent to their home worlds. Hyun had not been part of that mission, but he had heard the stories. Billions dead, a whole civilization nearly erased from existence. The woman's skin was gray, the color of deep sadness and fear. The child, who looked about 6 years old in human terms, pressed her face against her mother's chest. Her skin flickered between gray and dark blue. Even a child knew what was about to happen to them. A fat alien with too many arms stepped onto the platform. He was the auctioneer, the one who would sell them. He grabbed the woman's arm and pulled her forward. She stumbled but held on to the child. "Here we have something special," the auctioneer shouted. His voice was loud and cruel. "A Valari female, healthy and strong. Good for labor, good for other things." The crowd laughed at his meaning. Hyun's hand tightened into a fist. "And this little one," the auctioneer continued, trying to pull the child away from her mother. "She will grow up to be worth much money. But today we sell them separate. More profit that way." The woman made a sound that might have been a scream or a plea. The child began to cry, a high sound that cut through all the noise of the market. The woman's skin flashed bright red for just a moment, the Valari color of anger and desperation before returning to gray. Hyun had seen this before. During the war, he had fought alongside 3 Valari soldiers. They had been assigned to his unit as telepathic scouts. Hyun had not trusted them at first, but they had saved his life and the lives of his squad more times than he could count. When the order came down to abandon them during a retreat, Hyun had refused. He had carried 1 wounded Valari soldier 5 miles through enemy territory. That soldier's name had been Talon. Talon had died in his arms anyway, but not before touching Hyun's face and showing him images of his own family, a wife, 2 children, all dead when their colony was destroyed. Hyun had promised Talon that if he ever found other Valari, he would help them. It had seemed like an easy promise to make to a dying friend. All the Valari were supposed to be gone, but here were 2, alive and about to be sold to people who would hurt them or work them to death. The bidding started. Aliens called out numbers, offering credits for the woman. The amounts were low. Valari were rare, but they were also seen as weak and useless. The woman would probably end up in a labor camp on some mining colony. The child would be sold to whoever wanted a slave that would not fight back. Something broke inside Hyun's chest. It felt like a wall that he had built over many years suddenly cracked and fell apart. He had spent so long running from his past, from the things he had done and the people he had failed to save. He told himself he was just a weapon, a tool for killing, not a hero or a good man. But looking at this woman and child, seeing the same fear he had seen in Talon's eyes all those years ago, Hyun knew he could not walk away. He pushed through the crowd to the front. People moved aside quickly when they saw his face and the weapons on his belt. Hyun was not a large man, but he carried himself like violence was always just one moment away. Other beings could sense that about humans. They knew to be careful. 10,000 credits, Hyun called out. The crowd went quiet. The auctioneer looked at him with surprise. 10,000. For both? For both, Hyun repeated. And I want the sale done now. No separation. The auctioneer's eyes narrowed with greed. 10,000 credits was more than he would make selling them separately. But he was also suspicious. What does a human want with Valari slaves? That is my business, Hyun said. His voice was cold and flat. Do you want the credits or not? For a moment, the auctioneer seemed to think about refusing, but Hyun's hand had moved to rest on his gun and the message was clear. The auctioneer nodded quickly. Sold to the human. Hyun transferred the credits from his account. It was everything he had. Every coin he had earned from years of mercenary work. His ship, his weapons, his supplies all converted to credits and handed over to this disgusting creature. The auctioneer checked his device, confirmed the payment, and smiled with too many teeth. Pleasure doing business. The merchandise is yours. 2 guards brought the woman and child down from the platform. Up close, Hyun could see how thin they were. The woman's eyes met his, and he saw no hope there, only resignation. She thought he was just another buyer, just another person who would use them and hurt them. The guards handed him the chain that connected to their shackles. The metal was cold in Hyun's hand. He looked down at it, then at the woman and child. The little girl was shaking. Hyun pulled out a small tool from his belt. It was designed to cut through electronic locks. He knelt down and pressed it against the child's shackles. They clicked open and fell to the floor. The child stared at her free wrists in shock. Then Hyun freed the woman. She pulled her hands back quickly, confused and afraid. Come with me, Hyun said quietly. I am taking you away from here. He turned and started walking toward the docks. Behind him, he heard small footsteps following. The woman held her daughter's hand tight as they walked through the crowd. Hyun did not look back. He just kept walking, leading them toward whatever came next. He had no plan, no ship anymore, no money, but he had kept a promise to a dying friend, and somehow that felt like enough. Hyun's former ship now belonged to the slavers. He had given them everything, including the codes to his vessel. That ship had been his home for 5 years, but he did not regret the loss, not when he saw the small Valari child looking up at him with wide, frightened eyes. The problem was simple. They needed to leave Station Krell quickly, but Hyun had no transport. He led the woman and her daughter through the maze of corridors that made up the station. The woman, whose name he still did not know, stayed 3 steps behind him. She kept her child close and watched Hyun like he was a predator, who might turn on them at any moment. He could not blame her for that fear. The docking bay was filled with ships of all sizes. Hyun's eyes scanned the area until he found what he needed. A small cargo pod sat in the corner, old and battered. It was the kind of ship used for short trips between stations. Not fast, not comfortable, but it would fly. 2 dock workers stood near it, playing some kind of game on a data pad. Hyun walked up to them with confidence, his hand near his weapon. I need that pod, he said. The first worker, a tall alien with green scales, laughed. That pod belongs to Merchant Vin. You want it, you buy it from him. Merchant Vin sold it to me 10 minutes ago, Hyun lied smoothly. Here is the payment code. He held up his datapad, showing a screen full of random numbers. The workers barely looked at it. They were lazy and bored, and a confident human with weapons was not someone they wanted to argue with. The second worker shrugged and handed Hyun the access codes. Sometimes, Hyun thought, the easiest way to steal something was to act like you already owned it. He led the woman and child into the pod. The inside was cramped and dirty. There were only 2 rooms, a tiny sleeping area and the cockpit. The whole thing smelled like old fuel and someone's forgotten lunch. But it had engines, and that was all they needed. Sit there, Hyun said, pointing to the sleeping area. Strap in. This will not be smooth. The woman sat on the narrow bed and pulled her daughter into her lap. She still had not spoken a single word to him. Her skin remained gray, and her eyes watched his every move. Hyun started the engines. The pod shook and made unhappy sounds, but it lifted off the station deck. He guided it through the docking bay doors and out into the darkness of space. Behind them, Station Krell became smaller and smaller until it was just another light among the stars. Only when they were an hour away did Hyun allow himself to breathe. He set the autopilot and went to check on his passengers. The woman sat exactly where he had left her, but her daughter had fallen asleep against her chest. The child's skin had changed from gray to a soft blue, the color of uneasy rest. There is food in the storage locker, Hyun said, pointing to a cabinet. Not much, but enough for a few days. Water too. The woman stared at him. Then finally she spoke. Her voice was soft and musical, even filled with suspicion. What do you want from us? Nothing, Hyun said. Everyone wants something. You paid everything you had, why? Hyun leaned against the wall. He was suddenly very tired. I made a promise to a friend. A long time ago. What promise? That if I ever met other Valari, I would help them. He looked at the sleeping child. That is all. The woman's skin flickered, showing brief flashes of orange, the Valari color of confusion. She was trying to read him, probably using her telepathic abilities. Hyun knew about that. The Valari could sense emotions and sometimes share thoughts, but only if someone let them in. He did not try to block her. Let her see what he was. Let her see the guilt and the blood on his hands. Let her see that he was not a good man, just a man trying to do one good thing. Her eyes widened slightly. Whatever she felt in his mind made her skin turn pale pink, the color of surprise and something else, maybe pity. Your name? She asked finally. Hyun. I am Lyra. This is my daughter, Nari. She touched the sleeping child's hair gently. We are the last of our family. Everyone else died when the colonies were destroyed. I know. I am sorry. You are sorry. Lyra's voice was not accusing, just sad. The humans are always sorry after. But you still destroyed us. Hyun had no answer for that. She was right. Humanity had committed genocide against the Valari, and saying sorry meant nothing. He sat down on the floor of the cockpit, his back against the doorframe. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Nari woke up. She lifted her head and looked around the pod with sleepy eyes. When she saw Hyun sitting in the doorway, she shrank back against her mother. It is okay, Lyra whispered to her daughter. He will not hurt us. Are you sure? Nari's voice was tiny. I am sure. Nari looked at Hyun for a long moment. Children were strange, Hyun thought. They were afraid but also curious in ways that adults forgot how to be. After a minute, Nari asked, Why does your face have lines on it? Nari, Lyra said sharply. That is rude. But Hyun almost smiled. Almost. They are called scars. I got them in fights. Did you win? I survived. That is winning enough. Nari seemed to think about this. Did you fight bad people? That was a harder question. Hyun had fought many people. Some of them were bad. Some of them were just soldiers following orders like he had been. Some of them were probably good people who happened to be on the wrong side. Sometimes, he said finally. Are you a bad person? Nari asked. Lyra tried to stop her daughter from asking more questions, but Hyun held up his hand. The child deserved honesty. Yes, he said. I have done bad things. I have hurt people. I am not a hero. Then why did you buy us? Why did you use all your money? Hyun looked at this small child with her innocent questions, and her skin that was slowly turning yellow around the edges. Yellow was the Valari color of curiosity and hope. He did not want to lie to her. Because I could not save your people before, but I could save you now. Nari tilted her head, thinking. Then she did something that surprised both Hyun and her mother. She climbed down from Lyra's lap and walked over to him. She was so small, barely reaching his shoulder as he sat on the floor. She touched one of the scars on his face with her finger. Does it hurt? Not anymore. Good, Nari said. Then she went back to her mother and curled up in her lap again. Lyra looked at Hyun with an expression he could not read. Her skin had turned light green, the color of cautious trust. It was not much, but it was a start. The autopilot beeped, warning them that they were approaching a navigation point. Hyun stood and returned to the cockpit. He entered coordinates for the nearest neutral station, a place called Haven's Rest. It was 3 days away at their current speed. 3 days in this cramped pod with two people who had every reason to hate humans. 3 days to figure out what came next. Behind him he heard Lyra singing softly to Nari. It was a Valari lullaby, old and sad. Hyun had heard Talon sing the same song once, sitting around a campfire during the war. The memory hurt, but it was a good kind of hurt. The kind that reminded him he was still human, still capable of feeling something other than emptiness. 2 hours into the journey, the pod's alert system screamed. Hyun checked the sensors and cursed. A distress signal was coming from a nearby sector. A civilian transport was under attack. He could ignore it. They had their own problems. Getting involved would only bring danger. The smart choice was to keep flying toward Haven's Rest and pretend he had not seen anything. But then Nari appeared in the cockpit doorway. She had heard the alert. Her skin was dark blue with worry. Is someone in trouble? She asked. Hyun looked at the small child. Then at the distress signal on his screen, he thought about all the times he had followed orders instead of doing what was right. All the times he had walked away because it was easier. Yes, he said. Someone is in trouble. Are you going to help them? Hyun changed their course, pointing the pod toward the distress signal. It was probably a stupid decision. It would definitely be dangerous. But Nari was watching him with hope in her eyes, and he could not bring himself to disappoint her. Yes, he said. I am going to help them. The civilian transport hung in space like a wounded bird. Its engines were dark, and pieces of its hull drifted away into the void. 3 smaller ships circled it like sharks, firing occasionally to keep anyone inside from getting ideas about escape. Hyun recognized those ships immediately. Krix pirates. The Krix were a reptilian species known for their cruelty and their love of taking what belonged to others. They were also cowards who only attacked ships that could not fight back. Stay here, Hyun told Lyra and Nari. Stay quiet and keep the lights off. If something happens to me, the autopilot is set for Haven's Rest. It will take you there. You are going out there? Lyra asked. Her skin had turned dark gray, almost black. Fear. There are 3 of their ships. You are alone. I have been alone before, Hyun said. He checked his pistol and the 2 extra magazines he had. Not much ammunition, but it would have to be enough. He also grabbed a short knife from his belt and a small explosive device he kept for emergencies. Nari grabbed his hand as he moved toward the airlock. Do not die, she said simply. Hyun looked down at her. Something in his chest felt strange, like a muscle he had not used in years suddenly coming back to life. He touched the top of her head briefly, then pulled his hand away. I will try not to, he said. The cargo pod was too small for the pirates to notice. Hyun piloted it close to the damaged transport, using the debris field for cover. When he was close enough, he put on an old spacesuit he found in the storage and opened the airlock. Space was cold and silent. Hyun used the suit's small thrusters to push himself toward the transport. He landed on its hull and found an emergency access port. It took 3 minutes to hack the lock and get inside. The interior of the transport was a mess. Bodies floated in the corridors. Crew members who had been killed when the pirates first attacked. Hyun pushed past them, his face empty of emotion. He had seen too many dead bodies to let them slow him down now. He found survivors in the passenger area. 20 people of various species, huddled together behind overturned seats and cargo crates. They were using whatever they could find as weapons, preparing for when the pirates came to take them. An elderly woman of a species Hyun did not recognize saw him first. She raised a metal pipe like a club ready to fight. I am here to help, Hyun said over the suit's communication system. 1 human against 3 ships of Krix, another survivor said. He was a young man with blue skin and 4 arms. You are insane. Probably, Hyun agreed. Where are the pirates now? 1 ship is docked at the main airlock. The crew is inside, looting the cargo bay. The other 2 ships are outside, watching. Hyun thought for a moment. 3 ships, probably 6 to 8 pirates per ship. 20 to 25 enemies total. Bad odds for anyone else. For a human who had spent 10 years fighting in the worst wars the galaxy had ever seen, it was just another day. Stay here, he told the survivors. When you hear noise, seal this door and do not open it for anyone except me. He did not wait for them to argue. Hyun moved through the corridors toward the cargo bay. The transport's gravity was failing, which meant he was floating more than walking. That was good. Humans were better at zero-gravity combat than most species. They had evolved learning to swim, to move in 3 dimensions instead of just 2. The cargo bay was large and filled with floating containers. Hyun could hear the pirates before he saw them. They were laughing and talking in their hissing language, pulling open crates and taking whatever looked valuable. There were 8 of them, all Krix, all armed with energy weapons that could cut through metal. They were big too, each one at least 7 feet tall with scales like armor and tails that could break bones. Hyun pulled out his pistol and his knife. Then he turned off his spacesuit's light and pushed himself into the shadows near the ceiling. The first pirate died without knowing what happened. Hyun dropped on him from above, driving his knife into the weak spot where the Krix's neck met their shoulder. The creature made a surprise sound and went limp. Hyun took its weapon before the body could float away. The other pirates noticed something was wrong. They started looking around, hissing questions at each other. Hyun was already moving. He used the floating cargo containers as cover, pushing himself from one to another. When he had a clear shot, he fired. 2 more pirates went down. The others started shooting wildly, hitting cargo containers and walls, but not Hyun. They were panicking. That was another thing about humans. Other species saw combat as something that happened on the ground, in clear lines of battle. Humans had learned to fight in the air, in the water, in space, in every kind of terrain and situation. They adapted. Hyun grabbed a cargo container and pushed it hard toward a group of 3 pirates. It hit them like a battering ram, crushing one against the wall. The other 2 fired at the container, not realizing Hyun was coming from a different direction. He shot them both. That left 3 pirates. They had finally figured out where he was and were moving together, trying to corner him. Smart. But Hyun had already thought 3 moves ahead. He aimed at the cargo bay door controls and fired. The door slid open, and suddenly all the air was being sucked out into space. The pirates were pulled toward the opening, their weapons flying from their hands. Hyun had tied himself to a support beam with a cable from his suit. He hung there, watching them get pulled out into the void. When it was over, Hyun closed the cargo bay door and turned on the emergency air systems. He checked all the bodies to make sure they were really dead, then took their weapons and ammunition. He would need them for the next part. The 2 pirate ships outside had noticed something was wrong. They were moving closer to the transport, probably trying to figure out why their friends had stopped answering communications. Hyun used the transport's damaged communication system to send a message. "This is the transport crew. We surrender. Do not shoot. We are opening the main airlock." There was a pause. Then one of the pirate ships responded. "Smart choice. We come aboard now." Hyun smiled. It was not a nice smile. He positioned himself above the main airlock with 3 weapons and all the ammunition he had taken from the dead pirates. Then he waited. The airlock opened. 6 more pirates came through, weapons ready but not expecting a fight. They thought the crew had surrendered. They were wrong. Hyun dropped from the ceiling again. This time he was not trying to be quiet. He fired both weapons at once, hitting 4 pirates before they could react. The other 2 managed to return fire, but Hyun was already moving. He pushed off a wall, spun in midair, and shot them both. 10 seconds. 6 enemies dead. That was the human way of war. Fast, brutal, efficient. But Hyun was not done. The last pirate ship was still outside, and they had definitely heard the fighting by now. He needed to finish this before they decided to just blow up the transport and everyone on it. He grabbed an explosive device from one of the dead pirates and a spacesuit that actually worked. Then he went back outside through the emergency airlock. The last pirate ship was moving to a safe distance, probably preparing to fire on the transport. Hyun used his suit's thrusters to fly toward it. The ship's crew did not notice him until he was already attaching the explosive to their engine section. By the time they realized what was happening, Hyun was already flying back toward the transport. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a small star. The pirate ship broke apart, its crew dead before they could even scream. Hyun floated there for a moment, looking at what he had done. 25 enemies dead in less than 30 minutes. It had been easy, too easy. That was the problem with being good at killing. It never really stopped being easy. He returned to the transport. The survivors stared at him like he was a monster. Maybe he was. He had just killed 25 beings without feeling anything except the cold calculation of tactics and timing. The elderly woman from before approached him carefully. "You saved us," she said. "How can we repay you?" "I do not need payment," Hyun said. His voice sounded tired even to himself. "Just get to the nearest station and report what happened." But the woman insisted. She pressed a credit chip into his hand. "Take it, please. You gave us our lives back." Hyun looked at the chip. It was not much money, probably their life savings pooled together. He wanted to refuse, but he saw the looks on their faces. They needed to give him something. Survivors always did. It made them feel less helpless. "Thank you," he said finally, taking the chip. He returned to his cargo pod where Lyra and Nari were waiting. They had watched everything through the pod's viewport. When Hyun came through the airlock, covered in blood that was not his own, Nari shrank back against her mother. Lyra's skin was bright red, the color of shock and fear, but also orange, the color of confusion. She had felt what he did through her telepathic senses. She had experienced his coldness during the fight, the way he had turned off all emotion and become a weapon. "You killed them all," she said. It was not a question. "Yes. They were going to kill those people. You saved them. Yes. But you felt nothing while you did it. Hyun sat down heavily in the pilot seat. I learned not to feel during fights. If you feel, you hesitate. If you hesitate, you die. Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that surprised him. Doubts. I understand why humans are feared across the galaxy. But I also understand why those people looked at you like a hero. I am not a Haven's Rest was not really a station. It was more like a small city built inside an asteroid that had been hollowed out centuries ago. Thousands of beings lived here, most of them trying to forget whatever they were running from. It was neutral territory, which meant no government had authority here, but also that it was relatively safe. People did not start fights in Haven's Rest because everyone had something to lose. Hyun guided their damaged cargo pod into the docking bay and paid for a repair slot with the credits the survivors had given him. He had enough left over for maybe 2 weeks of food and lodging. After that, he would need to find work. Lyra held Nari's hand as they walked through the station's main corridors. The child's eyes were wide, taking in all the strange beings around them. She had never seen so many different species in one place. Her skin flickered through various colors as her emotions changed from fear to curiosity to wonder. Stay close, Lyra told her daughter. To Hyun, she said, what happens now? Now we find you a safe place, Hyun said. There are Valari refugee groups. They can help you reach one of the protected colonies. And you? I will find work. Security, probably. There is always need for that. They walked in silence for a while. Hyun was about to suggest they find a cheap inn when someone called out to them from a small shop. Excuse me. You three.
Yes, you!
An elderly woman stood in the doorway of what looked like a general goods store. She was short and round with dark hair and kind eyes. Human, Hyun realized, or at least mostly human. She beckoned them over urgently. You just arrived, yes? I can tell. You have that lost look. Come inside. I am Bora. I own this shop and a merchant vessel that trades between the rim stations. Hyun's hand went to his weapon, but Bora just laughed. Oh, put that away. I am not going to hurt you. I am going to offer you jobs. Inside the shop, Bora poured them tea and studied them with sharp eyes. Let me guess. You, she pointed at Hyun, are running from something. Military background, probably special forces. You two, she gestured at Lyra and Nari, are Valari, which means you are survivors of the genocide, and somehow the three of you ended up together. That is none of your business, Hyun said. True. But I am making it my business because I need people like you. My merchant ship needs security. Pirates attack traders all the time out here. I had a security team, but they quit after the last attack. Too dangerous, they said, cowards. I am not interested, Hyun started to say. I pay well. I provide living quarters on the ship. And, Bora looked at Lyra and Nari, I can arrange transport to the Valari colonies when we pass near them in about 4 months. My route goes right past the protected zone. Lyra's skin flashed bright orange. Hope and surprise. 4 months was nothing compared to the years it might take them to find safe passage otherwise. Why would you help us? Lyra asked. Bora's expression became sad. I had a daughter once. The pirates took her. I never found her again. That was 20 years ago. When I see a mother protecting her child, I think of my daughter. I think maybe if someone had helped her, she would still be alive. Hyun studied the old woman. She was telling the truth. He could see it in her eyes, the old grief that never fully healed. He understood that kind of pain. What would you want me to do? He asked. Keep my ship safe. Keep my crew safe. That is all. The ship is called the Wandering Star. We trade in goods, nothing illegal. We leave in 2 days. Hyun looked at Lyra, who looked back at him. They had a silent conversation, the kind that people who have been through trouble together can have without words. Finally, Lyra nodded. We accept, Hyun said. Life aboard the Wandering Star was different from anything Hyun had experienced. The crew was small, only 8 people including Bora. There was Dae-hyun, a cheerful human engineer who talked constantly about his wife and children back on Earth. There was Malik, a silent Thulian navigator with 6 arms who was the best pilot Hyun had ever seen. There were others, all decent people who worked hard and did not ask too many questions about each other's pasts. Hyun was given a small cabin near the cargo bay. It was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a locker, but it was his. Lyra and Nari shared a slightly larger cabin 1 level up. For the first few days, everyone was cautious around each other. The crew did not know what to make of the cold human warrior who appeared on their ship. Lyra did not know if she could trust these strangers. But slowly things changed. It started with Nari. Children do not understand the careful distance that adults maintain. She was curious and friendly, and she quickly decided that the entire ship was her playground. She followed Daehyun around the engine room, asking a million questions about how everything worked. She sat with Malik in the cockpit, watching the stars go by. She even convinced the ship's cook, a grumpy Philesian named Torin, to teach her how to make bread, and always she came back to Hyun. "Tell me about Earth," she would say, sitting on the floor of his cabin while he cleaned his weapons. "It is a blue planet with lots of water," Hyun would answer. "Is it pretty?" "Parts of it. Other parts are ugly. Humans build a lot of ugly things. Did you have a family there?" Hyun's hands would stop moving when she asked questions like that. "Once, a long time ago. What happened to them?" "They died. In a war." Nari would process this information seriously. Her skin would turn soft purple, the Valari color of sympathy. "I am sorry. I know what it is like to lose family." And that was the thing about Nari. She was 6 years old, but she had already learned lessons that most people did not learn in a lifetime. She knew about loss and fear and survival, but she had not let it make her bitter. She was still capable of joy, still curious about the universe, still willing to trust. Lyra watched her daughter bond with Hyun, and something in her began to soften too. She started joining their conversations. She taught Hyun words in the Valari language. She showed him the meditation techniques her people use to calm their minds. "You carry too much anger inside," she told him one evening. They were in the ship's common area, watching Nari play a game with Daehyun. "It is eating you from the inside." "I know," Hyun said. "Why do you not let it go?" "Because I deserve to carry it. The things I did during the war, the people I killed. I do not get to just forgive myself and move on." Lyra was quiet for a moment. Her skin shifted to light green, the color of thoughtful wisdom. "My people have a saying. The past is a stone you can carry or a stone you can set down. Either way, the stone exists, but only one choice lets you walk forward. Your people also believe in forgiveness and peace. Look where that got them. We were nearly destroyed, yes, but we are still here, and we still believe that hatred poisons the one who carries it more than the one it is aimed at." She touched his arm gently. "You saved us, Hyun. Whatever you did before, you are trying to be better now. That counts for something." Hyun did not know what to say to that. He had spent so long thinking of himself as broken, as beyond redemption, that the idea of change seemed impossible. But working on the Wandering Star, protecting the crew from pirates, playing simple games with Nari, learning to meditate with Lyra, slowly Hyun began to feel something shift inside himself. The anger was still there. The guilt was still there. But they were not the only things anymore. One night, 3 months into their journey, Daehyun found Hyun sitting alone in the cargo bay. The engineer sat down next to him with 2 cups of terrible coffee. "You have been different lately," Daehyun said. "Less scary. Still scary, but less." "Is that good or bad?" "Good, very good. The crew was terrified of you at first. Now they just respect you." Daehyun sipped his coffee and made a face. Toran's coffee is still awful. "Anyway, I wanted to ask you something. Why did you leave the military?" Hyun had never told anyone the full story, but something about Daehyun's open, honest face made him want to talk. "I was part of a special operations unit. We did things that were not always legal, followed orders that were not always right. And then one day I got an order I could not follow." "What order?" "To destroy a civilian station. They said there were enemy combatants hiding there. There were not. It was just families, children. I refused. My commanding officer said I was a traitor. He tried to arrest me. I ran." "So you are a deserter," Daehyun said. There was no judgment in his voice, just understanding. "Yes, officially I am dead. But there are people who know I am alive. People who would like to see me captured or killed." "Does Bora know?" "I told her before I accepted the job. She said she did not care. She said the military makes monsters out of good men, and she does not blame the men for what they become." Daehyun nodded. "Bora is wise. She has seen a lot in her years." He stood up and stretched. "You know what I think? I think you are not running anymore. I think you are building something new. Those 2 Valari, they are not just people you saved. They are your family now. I barely know them. Families are not always about blood. Sometimes they are about choice. You chose to save them. They chose to stay with you. Lyra could have left at any station we stopped at. She did not. Nari calls you Hyun Nim now. Do you know what that means? No. It is a term of respect, but the way she says it, it sounds more like she is saying, the Wandering Star docked at Harmony Station for routine resupply. It was a large commercial hub where merchants from across the galaxy came to trade. Hyun did not like big stations. Too many people, too many eyes, too many chances for someone to recognize him. But Bora needed to sell their cargo and buy new goods, so they had no choice. Stay on the ship, Hyun told Lyra and Nari. I will go with Bora to handle the business. Can I come? Nari asked. Her skin was bright yellow with excitement. I have never seen a station this big. No, too dangerous. Nari's skin turned gray, disappointed. Lyra touched her daughter's head gently. Listen to Hyun. We will explore next time. Hyun felt bad seeing Nari's sad face, but he had learned to trust his instincts. Something felt wrong about this station. He could not explain it, just a feeling in his gut that danger was close. He was right. Hyun and Bora were in the station's commercial sector, negotiating with a trader over the price of medical supplies when Hyun saw them. Galactic Coalition soldiers in their dark blue uniforms, checking identification papers at a checkpoint. They were conducting random searches looking for someone. Hyun's blood went cold. He turned away slowly, trying not to draw attention. What is wrong? Bora asked. Coalition soldiers. We need to leave now. But it was too late. One of the soldiers had seen him. Her eyes went wide with recognition, and she reached for her communication device. Hyun knew that look. She knew who he was. The soldier pushed through the crowd toward them. She was human, tall and muscular with short dark hair and the kind of face that did not show emotion easily. Her hand rested on her weapon, but she had not drawn it yet. Hyun, she said when she reached them. Her voice was cold. It has been a long time. Commander Ji-won, Hyun replied. His voice was equally cold. I did not expect to see you here. I am hunting deserters. Imagine my surprise when my facial recognition software identified you in the crowd. Ji-won looked at Bora. Step away from him, citizen. This man is a wanted criminal. Bora did not move. He works for me. He is a good man. He is a traitor who abandoned his unit during wartime. He is coming with me. Hyun's mind raced through options. He could fight, but not here in a crowded station. Too many civilians. He could run, but Ji-won had already alerted her team. He could see other soldiers moving through the crowd toward them. Before anyone could move, the station's alarm system started screaming. Red lights flashed and a voice came over the speakers. All personnel, we are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Multiple hostile ships approaching. All civilians proceed to emergency shelters immediately. The crowd panicked. People started running in every direction. Hyun grabbed Bora's arm. Get back to the ship, seal it. Do not open for anyone except me. What about you? Bora asked. I will be there, go. Ji-won grabbed Hyun's shoulder. You are not going anywhere. Listen to me, Hyun said urgently. I know how pirates operate. If we do not help defend this station, thousands of people will die. We can settle our business after. Why should I trust you? Because you know me, Ji-won. You served with me for 3 years. You know I do not lie. An explosion rocked the station. Part of the ceiling collapsed nearby, crushing several market stalls. Screams filled the air. Ji-won looked at the chaos, then back at Hyun. She made a decision. Fine. But you stay where I can see you, and after this is over, you are coming with me. Hyun nodded. They ran toward the nearest security station where coalition soldiers were organizing the defense. The pirates had sent boarding parties through damaged sections of the hull. They were pouring into the station, killing anyone who resisted. The commander in charge of the station's defense was overwhelmed. He had 30 soldiers and hundreds of attackers. Ji-won took one look at the situation and started giving orders. She was good at this, always had been. Within minutes, she had organized the soldiers into effective defensive positions. You, she said to Hyun, I need you to take a team and secure the civilian shelter in Sector 7. Pirates are trying to break through. Give me 5 soldiers and I will hold it. You will have 3. That is all I can spare. Hyun took his 3 soldiers, none of them human, and headed toward Sector 7. The corridors were filled with smoke and the sounds of fighting. Bodies lay everywhere, both pirates and civilians. Hyun's face became the cold, emotionless mask he wore during combat. This was what he was good at. This was what he had always been good at. They reached the civilian shelter just as pirates were trying to blow open the door. There were 15 of them, various species, all armed and angry. They saw Hyun's small group and laughed. 4 against 15, one of them called out. "You should run, little soldiers!" Hyun checked his weapon. "You should have stayed on your ships." What happened next was over in less than 2 minutes. Hyun did not fight fair. He used every trick he knew. He shot out the lights, making the corridor dark. He used the smoke as cover. He threw a grenade that forced the pirates into a bottleneck, where his soldiers could shoot them easily. He moved through the darkness like a ghost, and every shot he fired found a target. When the lights came back on, all 15 pirates were dead. The 3 soldiers with Hyun stared at him with a mixture of fear and awe. They had heard stories about human soldiers, about how they fought. Now they understood why other species feared humans in combat. "Secure the area," Hyun ordered. "I need to check on something." He ran back toward the docking bay where the wandering star was berthed. His heart was pounding, not from the fighting but from fear. If the pirates had reached his ship, if something had happened to Lyra and Nari. He found Jiwon already there. She was standing outside the wandering star with more soldiers. The ship's airlock was sealed, but Hyun could see scorch marks on the hull where someone had tried to force it open. "Is the crew safe?" Hyun asked. "They are alive. One of my soldiers was nearby when pirates attacked. He managed to drive them off." Jiwon looked at Hyun with an expression he could not read. "There is a Valari woman and child inside. They were very worried about you. They are under my protection. I figured. When I knocked on the door to tell them it was safe, the woman refused to open it. She said she would only open for you. She described you perfectly. Said you would have a scar over your left eye and would know the Valari word for starlight." Jiwon paused. "You never told me you knew how to speak Valari." "It is a recent skill." Hyun approached the airlock and spoke the word Lyra had taught him. "Sorian." The lock clicked open. Lyra stood there with Nari behind her. Both of them were terrified, their skin dark gray. But when they saw Hyun, relief flooded their faces. Nari's skin turned bright yellow and she ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. "We heard the fighting," Lyra said. Her voice was shaking. "We thought you might be dead. I am fine. Everyone is fine now." Hyun touched Nari's head gently. To Jiwon, he said, "Give me a moment." He went inside the ship with Lyra and Nari, making sure they were truly unharmed. Bora and the rest of the crew were there too, scared but safe. When he was satisfied, Hyun returned to where Jiwon waited. "All right," he said. "I am ready. Take me into custody." Jiwon looked at him for a long moment. Behind her, the station was still burning in places. Emergency crews were pulling bodies from the rubble. Hundreds of people were alive because of the defense Jiwon had organized and Hyun had helped execute. "I saw you in there," Jiwon said quietly. "The way you fought. The way you protected those civilians. I saw a little girl run to you like you were her father. I saw a Valari woman trust you with her life." She shook her head. "The man in my database, the deserter, the traitor, that is not who I saw today." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that sometimes orders are wrong. I am saying that the military creates situations where good people have to make impossible choices." Jiwon pulled out her datapad and pressed several buttons. "I am deleting your biometric data from my scanner. As far as I am concerned, I never saw you on this station." "Why would you do that?" "Because I read your file after I identified you. I know what order you refused. I know what they wanted you to do to that civilian station. If I had been in your position, I hope I would have had the courage to do what you did." She looked toward the wandering star. "Whatever you were, you are not that anymore. But you cannot run forever. Sooner or later, someone else will find you." "I know. The coalition has a new division. Refugee Crisis Response. We protect civilians in the Outer Rim, rescue people from bad situations, fight pirates and slavers. We need people with your skills. People who will fight for the right reasons." Jiwon handed him a data chip. "This has information about how to contact us. Think about it. If you join officially, you would have legal protection. So would your Valari family." Hyun took the chip. "I will think about it. Do not think too long. Next time it might not be me who finds you. It might be someone who will not look the other way." Jiwon turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it is worth, I am glad you survived. You were the best tactical officer I ever served with. It would be a waste if you died running from your past." After she left, Hyun stood there holding the data chip. Behind him, 6 months later, Hyun stood on the bridge of a coalition rescue ship called the Morning Light. He wore the dark blue uniform of the Refugee Crisis Response Division, though he had refused to wear any rank insignia. He was not a soldier anymore. He was something different now. Something better, he hoped. His team was small but effective. Daehyun had left the Wandering Star to join him as the ship's engineer. Jiwon commanded the vessel, leading a crew of 20 specialists from various species. Their mission was simple: find refugees in danger and get them to safety. Fight pirates and slavers. Protect the helpless. It was the work Hyun had always wanted to do, even when he did not know it. Lyra and Nari lived in crew quarters on the ship. Lyra had trained as a medical assistant, using her Valari empathy to help injured people stay calm during treatment. Nari attended school with other crew children through a virtual learning system. She was learning 3 languages and had become the ship's unofficial mascot. Everyone loved her. Things were good, better than Hyun had any right to expect, but he should have known it could not last. The distress call came from a colony ship called the New Hope. It was carrying 500 refugees, mostly Valari families who had been found hiding in the Outer Rim. They were finally going to a protected colony world where they could live in peace. But the ship had been captured by pirates and was being held in a dead system near the frontier. "It is a trap," Jiwon said immediately when she saw the message. "They are using those refugees as bait." "Bait for what?" Daehyun asked. "For him." Jiwon pointed at Hyun. "The message specifically mentions the Valari. They know we have Valari crew members. They know Hyun will not abandon them." Hyun studied the message on the screen. At the bottom was a personal note, text only, no video. "Come alone, deserter. Come face your past, or these refugees die slowly. You have 48 hours. Signed, General Kang. The name hit Hyun like a physical blow. Kang had been his commanding officer during the war. The man who had given him the order to destroy that civilian station. The man who had tried to have him executed when he refused. "Who is Kang?" Jiwon asked. "He was my commander. After I deserted, he left the military too. Last I heard, he had become a warlord in the frontier territories. I thought he would have forgotten about me by now. Men like that never forget. He blames you for something." "What happened after you left?" Hyun closed his eyes, remembering. "Our unit was sent on another mission. Without me to plan the tactics, they walked into an ambush. 15 soldiers died. Kang barely survived. He was court-martialed for the failure and discharged. So this is revenge," Jiwon said. "He wants to kill you, or force you to become a monster again. Either way, he wins. I have to go." "No. We go together with the full crew. That is how this division works. We do not abandon our people, and you are one of our people now." But Hyun shook his head. "If we bring a coalition ship, Kang will kill the hostages immediately. He wants me alone. He wants to prove something. If I go alone, there is a chance to negotiate." "You mean there is a chance you die alone?" "Maybe, but I cannot let 500 people die because I am afraid." Lyra had been standing in the doorway, listening. She entered the bridge now, her skin dark with worry. "You cannot do this. It is suicide. I have to try." "Why? Why does it always have to be you?" Hyun turned to face her. Over the past months, they had become something more than friends, though neither of them had put a name to it. She understood him in ways no one else did, could sense his feelings even when he tried to hide them, and he had come to rely on her presence, on her gentle wisdom and her strength. "Because those are your people on that ship," Hyun said quietly. "Valari families, children like Nari, I cannot abandon them. Even if it costs your life?" "Even then." Lyra's skin flashed red, anger and fear mixing together. But beneath that, Hyun could see purple, the color of deep care and love. She walked up to him and placed her hand on his chest over his heart. The Valari gesture for a deep truth. You do not have to be the hero of every story. You do not have to die to prove you are a good man. You have already proven that. "Nari loves you. She paused, struggling with the words. "I need you to stay alive." Hyun covered her hand with his own. "I will come back." "I promise." "You cannot promise that. Not where you are going." She was right, of course. But Hyun had learned something in the months working with the crisis response team. He had learned that some things were worth risking everything for. Lyra and Nari were worth it. Those 500 refugees were worth it. Being the kind of man who could look at himself in the mirror was worth it. Nari appeared next to her mother and Hyun's heart ached. She was crying, her skin a stormy mix of gray and dark blue. "Please do not go. I do not want you to die like my father did." Hyun knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Listen to me, little one. I have to do this, but I have survived many dangerous things. I will survive this too. How do you know? Because I have something to come back to now. I have you and your mother. That makes me stronger than I have ever been." He hugged her tight, then stood and looked at Jiwon. "I need a small ship, something fast and unmarked, and I need you to promise that if I do not come back, you will take care of them." "You are asking a lot." "I know." Jiwon sighed. "Fine, but I am giving you 72 hours. If you're not back by then, we come in with everything we have. Kang gets one chance to do this his way. After that, it is my way." Hyun took a small courier ship and flew it to the coordinates Kang had provided. It was a 3-day journey to the dead system. 3 days alone with his thoughts, his memories, and his fear. When he arrived, he found the New Hope hanging in orbit around a dying star. 3 warships surrounded it, Kang's personal fleet. The colony ship looked damaged but intact. Hyun sent the recognition code Kang had included in his message. A reply came immediately. "Dock with the command ship. Come alone and unarmed." He undocked his courier vessel and left all his weapons behind. If Kang wanted him armed, it would not matter. This was not about a fair fight. This was about something deeper. Kang was waiting in the command ship's main hall. He looked older than Hyun remembered, his face scarred and his eyes hard. He stood with his arms crossed, surrounded by a dozen armed guards. "You actually came," Kang said. "I am surprised. You have 500 innocent people. What did you expect?" "I expected you to send your coalition friends. I expected you to hide behind your new uniform and your new life. But no, here you are, still thinking you can save everyone. Let them go, Kang, this is between us." "You are right about that." Kang waved at his guards. "Take him to the cargo bay. Let him see what he caused." They dragged Hyun through the ship to a large cargo bay. What he saw there made his blood run cold. The bay was filled with cages, and in those cages were the refugees from the New Hope. Men, women, children, all pressed together like animals. They looked terrified. "This is what happens when heroes desert," Kang said from behind him. "Our unit fell apart without you. 15 good soldiers died. I was blamed. I lost everything. So I decided if the coalition would not give me justice, I would take it myself. These refugees were supposed to be protected. Now they are mine, and you get to choose. Choose what? You can die here right now and I will sell these people into slavery. They will live, but their lives will be hell. Or," Kang paused for effect, "you can work for me. Use your tactical genius to help me take over this sector. Become the weapon you were always meant to be. If you do that, I let these refugees go free. You are insane. Maybe, but I am giving you a choice. Die a hero with nothing to show for it, or live as a villain and save 500 lives. What will it be, Hyun? What is your redemption worth?" Hyun looked at the cages full of terrified people. He saw children crying, mothers trying to comfort them. He saw Valari families who had survived genocide only to end up here. And he thought about Lyra and Nari waiting for him on the morning light. "There is a third option," Hyun said. "And what is that?" "I prove that you are lying. You are not going to let these people go no matter what I choose. You are going to kill them and me both. Because that is who you have become. A monster who uses innocent people to feed his own wounded pride." Kang's face twisted with rage. "You dare call me a monster? You who abandoned your brothers? Who let them die? They died because you gave illegal orders. They died because you were too proud to admit you were wrong. I read the reports, Kang. I know what really happened on that mission. You ignored intelligence warnings. You rushed into an ambush because you wanted glory. My desertion did not kill those soldiers. Your ambition did. Lies. Then prove it. Let these people go. Show me you are still the officer I once respected and not just another warlord hiding behind excuses." For a moment, something flickered in Kang's eyes. Maybe regret, maybe shame. But then his face hardened again. "Guards, take him. We will broadcast his execution to the coalition. Let them see what happens to deserters." The guards moved forward. Hyun did not fight them. He had one more move to make, and it required perfect timing. He had been counting on Kang's pride, on his need to justify himself. And while Kang had been talking, Hyun had been subtly recording everything with a hidden device in his uniform collar. The device was transmitting directly to the morning light. Do you really think I came here unprepared 1 year after the confrontation with Kang? The morning light received new orders. The Refugee Crisis Response Division was being expanded, and several team members would be reassigned to new ships. Hyun was offered a promotion, a command position on a larger vessel, but it would mean leaving the morning light and possibly being separated from Lyra and Nari. He turned down the promotion without a second thought. You could have had your own ship, Jiwon said when he told her. You could have been a commander. I do not want to command ships, Hyun replied. I want to protect people. I can do that here just as well as anywhere else. Jiwon smiled knowingly. It has nothing to do with the Valari woman and child you live with. Everything to do with them, Hyun admitted. They are my family. I am not leaving them. Good answer. The coalition had finally granted Hyun's request for extended leave. He, Lyra, and Nari would have 2 months on New Haven, a colony world where thousands of refugees had built new lives. It was a beautiful planet, green and peaceful, with settlements from dozens of species living together. Lyra had been preparing for weeks. The bonding of choice ceremony was important to the Valari, and she wanted everything to be perfect. She had contacted other Valari families on New Haven, arranged for a traditional ceremony space, and gathered the materials they would need. Nari was excited beyond words. Her skin barely stayed one color for more than a few seconds, flickering through yellows and pinks and greens. She was 8 years old now, taller and more confident than the terrified child Hyun had bought from a slave market 2 years ago. But she still followed him around, still asked him endless questions, still held his hand when she was scared. The day they arrived on New Haven, Hyun felt nervous. It was strange. He had faced armies and pirates and warlords without fear. But the idea of formally becoming a family, of having that bond recognized and made permanent, terrified him in a way combat never had. You are shaking, Lyra observed as they walked through New Haven's main settlement. She carried a bag of ceremonial items while Nari skipped ahead of them, exploring everything with curious eyes. I'm fine, Hyun said. You are terrified. That too. Lyra laughed softly. The bonding of choice is not meant to be frightening. It is a celebration. What if I do it wrong? What if I say the wrong words or make a mistake? There are no wrong words. You just have to speak from your heart. She touched his arm gently. You have already done the hard part, Hyun. You have already chosen us every single day for 2 years. This ceremony just makes it official. They had rented a small house on the edge of the settlement near where the city met the forest. It was simple but comfortable, with 2 bedrooms and a garden space. Nari immediately claimed the smaller bedroom and started arranging her few belongings. That evening, Daehyun and several other crew members from the Morning Light arrived. They had asked permission to attend the ceremony, and Lyra had agreed. Bora came too, the old merchant woman who had first given them a chance. Even Jiwon appeared, though she stayed in the background, respectful of the sacred nature of the event. The ceremony would take place the next day at sunset, in a grove of trees that the Valari settlers had planted. But first, Lyra needed to teach Hyun what would happen. They sat in the garden while Nari played inside with Daehyun, who had brought her a gift from his latest trip to Earth. Lyra explained the ceremony step by step. First, we will stand together in a circle of light. The Valari believe that families are bound by light, by the connection between souls. I will ask you 3 questions. You must answer honestly. What questions? The first is, do you choose this family freely without force or obligation? The second is, do you promise to protect this family with your strength and your heart? The third is, do you accept that family is not blood but choice, and that choice must be made new every day? Hyun thought about each question. The answers are yes, yes, and yes. Good, then I will place my hands on your face and you will place yours on mine. This allows us to share our deepest feelings, our true selves. Valari do not lie in the bonding. We show each other everything. 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 Your pain, your guilt, your love, your hope. All of it, and I will show you mine. It can be overwhelming, but it is necessary. Family must know each other completely. Hyun felt a flutter of fear. Lyra would see all the terrible things he had done, all the darkness inside him. And if what you see makes you change your mind? Lyra's skin turned soft pink, affection mixed with gentle amusement. Hyun, I have been reading your emotions for 2 years. I already know what is inside you. The darkness does not scare me anymore. Neither does the light you try to hide. What light? The part of you that is kind and gentle and good. The part that plays games with Nari even when you are tired. The part that checks on the crew every night to make sure everyone is safe. The part that loves us even though you are afraid of being loved back. She smiled. That light is brighter than any darkness. The next day passed slowly. Hyun tried to keep busy, but his mind kept returning to the evening ceremony. He helped Nari practice the words she would say, her part of the ritual. He checked his clothes 3 times to make sure they were appropriate. He even tried to meditate using the techniques Lyra had taught him, but his thoughts were too scattered. Finally, as the sun began to set, they walked to the grove. Other Valari families were already there, perhaps 30 people. They had arranged lights in a circle, small floating orbs that glowed with soft colors. In the center of the circle was a platform made of woven branches decorated with flowers and ribbons. An elderly Valari man greeted them. His name was Elder Surin, and he would conduct the ceremony. His skin was pale with age, but his eyes were kind. "Welcome, Hyun," he said. "Lyra has told me your story. It is unusual for a human to join a Valari family through the bonding of choice. But the choice is sacred no matter who makes it." "I am honored," Hyun said. The ceremony began as the last light of the sun faded. Elder Surin spoke in the Valari language, words that Hyun had learned to understand over the past months. He spoke about family and choice, about the bonds that hold people together even when the universe tries to tear them apart. Then Lyra and Nari stepped into the circle of lights. Hyun joined them. Standing there with these 2 people who meant everything to him, Hyun felt his nervousness fade. This was right. This was where he was meant to be. Elder Surin asked the 3 questions. Hyun answered each one clearly, his voice steady. Yes, he chose this freely. Yes, he would protect them. Yes, he understood that family was a choice made new every day. Nari spoke next. In her small voice, she said the traditional words that children speak in the bonding. "I choose you as my family. I give you my trust and my heart. I will honor you and love you all my days." Hyun felt tears starting in his eyes. He had not cried in many years, but hearing this child claim him as family broke something open inside his chest. Then it was time for the sharing. Lyra stepped close to him and placed her glowing hands on either side of his face. Her skin was warm against him. Hyun placed his hands on her face in return. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Hyun felt Lyra's emotions flood into him, her memories and feelings laid bare. He experienced her fear when the slavers took her desperation to protect Nari, her surprise when Hyun freed them. He felt her slow-growing trust, her affection, her love for him that had developed over months of living together. But he also felt her pain. The loss of her husband, killed in the genocide. The loss of her parents, her siblings, her whole world. The grief that she carried every day but hid behind a calm face for Nari's sake. And through it all, he felt her strength. Lyra was not weak or helpless. She was a survivor who had chosen to keep living, keep loving, even after losing everything. She had chosen to trust a human warrior because she saw past the scars to the wounded man beneath. Hyun tried to pull back, overwhelmed, but Lyra's hands held firm. Now it was his turn. He let down all his walls and showed her everything. She experienced his childhood on Earth, his family who had died in a bombing when he was young, his loneliness, his anger at the universe for taking away everyone he loved, his military service, the things he had done in the name of duty, the order to destroy the civilian station and his refusal, the years of running, of hating himself, of believing he was beyond redemption, and she felt his love for her and Nari, fierce and protective and absolute. She felt how they had saved him just as much as he had saved them, how they had given him a reason to be better, to try harder, to believe that maybe he deserved a second chance. When the connection finally broke, both Hyun and Lyra were crying. Her skin glowed brilliant yellow, joy beyond measure. Hyun's face was wet with tears, but he was smiling. Elder Surin wrapped a braided cord around their joined hands, binding them together. "You have seen each other's truth. You have chosen each other knowing all that you are. By the light of the stars and the bond of choice, I declare you family. What you build together, let no one tear apart." Nari threw her arms around both of them, and they stood there in the circle of lights, the 3 of them together. The witnesses began to sing, a traditional Valari song,